Insecurities, something that we've all struggled with. Some may still struggle with. But guess what? You can use these insecurities as such a teachable moment. And we don't want to hate those insecurities. We want to embrace them so we can flip those insecurities into more secure way of life. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Let's unbox some of these insecurities and embrace them so we can grow.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and I am back from vacation. You probably never knew I went anywhere because I did not skip a beat with the podcast. I was in Florida. It is very, very warm in Florida, not much cooler where I am now, and I am vastly ready for October days with fire pits and sweatshirts and smells of all of that. So I'm ready for it. It was great. I had a great time. Went to Miami, went down to Key Largo. Key Largo is beautiful, but I just need the mountains. So it's great to visit. I just probably wouldn't ever move there unless I had it as like a snowbird house or something. But I'm back. And I cannot wait to talk to you about this topic because so many people have reached out and said, oh my God, I have all of these insecurities. Yeah, okay, so you're a human being is what you're telling me. And I can't wait to jump in and tell you about your insecurities, why you have them, which I think most of you know, and what you can do about it. And over on the Patreon, we're going to go deeper into unboxing what those insecurities are. And there's going to be a worksheet that's going to help prompt you so you can start knowing where to start and all of that stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to the show notes or wherever you're listening to this, hit the Patreon. It'll take you over there, or you can go to patreon.com/the positivity experience with an X. But let's jump into it. Okay. So first let's start talking a little bit about what your insecurities are. Not just your insecurities, whether it be your depression, your anxiety, your fears, whatever it is. I'm going to need you to stop judging it and to stop hating that piece of you. See, you can't have self-love and then go, okay, I only love this part of me. And if I was better, I would love me more. Yeah, you can't do that. All right. So think about the pressure as a human being. Well, that's enough, right? The pressure to be human is enough of a reason to be stressed. At times, you don't want to ever let that take you over. But think about growing up. Maybe you didn't have what the ideal childhood for you would have been. Maybe your mom left, your mom passed. There was a lot of dysfunctional living happening. Expectations were put on you. These are the programs that are given to you. Remember, you are programmed from birth. Literally, you are programmed from birth. You're given a name. You don't get to pick it. I mean, again, you can change it, but not for a while. So you don't get to pick your name. You may or may not have political and religious affiliation already chosen for you. This is the way we live our life. This is the way we do things. So the moment you think otherwise, as you grow older, you start getting a little insecure, well, what's wrong with me? Well, why am I not like everybody else in my family? Well, good. You don't have to be. But let's talk about those insecurities, because what happens is when you go through insecurity, been there, done that, baby. I got entire multiple chapters in my book on this coming out. And, you have to understand it's because you're looking at an idea of what you think it should be. So you're either falling in love with an idea. Back then I didn't really have social media, but you could see people's families together. Now you don't really know what's happening behind closed doors, but to your eye, you're like, well, why can't I have a quote unquote normal family? Why can't I have somebody to love me? Because again, you're projecting what you think you see, but you don't really know what you're seeing. You think you know what you're seeing, but you don't. And so this is an important part, because what happens is you start saying, well, I want to be different, or I want to do something of my own. And somebody says, no, that's stupid. And you go, oh my God, is it stupid? Well, now you start getting insecure. You start going, well, what's wrong with me? So this is why the noise and chatter of other people have got to be eliminated. First of all, you're never going to fully eliminate it because people are people. They're going to talk. It's not so much eliminating it. It's eliminating the accessibility that you have to you. Okay. But let's continue to go forward on talking about insecurities. Maybe in growing up, it's bad enough now with body image issues in the world that we live in now. It was for sure bad then. There were some commercials out. Special K cereal had one. Dunkin' Donuts, how, like all of these people had them that would never exist today because it was completely incorrect. Very, very harmful. Special K had one that had a little measuring tape that went around the K. Do not hate on them because this was back then. This is how everybody marketed, right? This is in the 70s and 80s. They're not that way now. And they had like the middle of the K tight, and it had like that little red tape around it and said, can you pinch more than an inch? Now, if you can pinch more than an inch, you're going to have to drop some weight. And you can do that by eating a bowl of cereal in the morning and a bowl of cereal at lunch and a sensible dinner. Like that was literally like their sort of like spiel. Not just them. There's a lot of it. So think about how insecure that's going to be. So let's say you're like, my God, what can I do to get down to this acceptable weight? What can I do to straighten my hair enough, curl my hair enough, lighten my skin? I mean, there's a lot of things that people have done due to feeling as though they want to fit in. Now, in your younger age, you don't have your frontal cortex isn't formed, right? That's why you ever talk to a teenager or a small child and you go, why'd you do this? And they go, I don't know. You get mad because you think, okay, you know why you did it. You did it a lot. I promise you, sometimes they don't, right? Because you're not using that judgment from your frontal cortex and it's not fully formed till in your 20s. So you have to understand that these insecurities are teaching you something. But what you're doing is you're not listening to the teachable moment. You're either doing the why me versus what is this trying to teach me, right? Why me or what is this trying to teach me? It's going to be a whole different view when you look at it, okay? But you also have to understand that when you're going through it, and let's say you're going through it now in a relationship, you're going through it now in your body, you're going through it now in multiple things, okay? In any way, shape, or form. Insecure about weight, insecure about friends, insecure about this. Am I enough? Am I enough? Instead of putting that on other people, because it is not their responsibility to heal this or fill that void. All right. How you got here is not your responsibility, but being here and going forward is 1,000% in your responsibility. So what you do is you don't sit there and you don't go, well, this is how I was raised. You don't go, well, it's because of my childhood. We know why you're here. But utilizing your insecurities now is going to show you where your open wounds are. And remember what I was saying about manipulation. I'm going to come back around that here in a second. Let's say you moved to Paris because your friend moved to Paris, and I've used this example before, and the friend is not available to you. They're busy, they're not doing anything, they're not calling you, and you get your feelings hurt. You chose that life. Never once did they say, oh, if you come here, we're going to spend like every waking moment together. You went in your head based off an insecurity of abandonment or attachment and decided, I can't be farther away from that person. So you go to see that person and then it doesn't give you the outcome in which you seek. And now you go, well, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Other than the expectations, that's nothing wrong with you. It's just we need to recalibrate. So if you look at what your insecurities are, let's say you have a fear of abandonment, right? Full on actual, issue. Well, okay. But just because you have that fear of abandonment doesn't mean that everybody else has to coddle you and walk you through feeling secure due to that attachment issue of abandonment. Now, what does that mean in a teachable moment? Well, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you're not normal, because that's not even a thing. Normal's not a thing. And what it tells you is that you're still dealing with an open wound that you haven't healed yet. Okay? So I need you to start leaning into your insecurities, not avoiding them, not going into self-loathing, because then you'll go, well, I don't know. It's a me issue. Okay, if it's a me issue, then you start working on what that issue is. What is it that you're expecting somebody else to fill for you that you're not filling for yourself? Okay? Because what will happen is now here comes that manipulation piece. And I said this to you multiple times in multiple podcasts, and we'll say it in multiple more podcasts. A lot of times when you have this expectation, and expectations will come from insecurities. Okay? Expectations will come from insecurities. And when you have this expectation and a person doesn't live up to that, or doesn't live up to the idea in which you give in your head, and you just think that this is what they should do based on how you're doing it, now the manipulation can jump in here. Now it's either you start the self-loathing, which nobody can see, or unless you're saying it out loud, but typically nobody can see it. But then you start trying to get sneaky a little bit. You start getting passive aggressive. Well, I got those Parisian slippers for when I come to Paris. Okay. Yeah, you're waiting for for when I come to, over to your house. You go, okay, well, one day you get to wear them. But you want them to be like, oh my God, you brought those slippers? Come on over. Yeah, no. You can't set yourself up to get disappointed and then get upset with the person and then get upset with yourself. It is a vicious cycle. It's the snake who bit its own tail, right? I know you've seen that, right? The snake eating its own tail. You're not getting and there's no progress there. So what I want you to do is I want you to get in the headspace of going, okay, and it's going to be pen to pad. Got to break out the pen, got to break out the paper, preferably in your negative journal. And you want to start saying, okay, where are my attachments? Do I have an anxious attachment? I have so many avenues for attachment issues. You can see it on my YouTube, you can see it on my podcast, a lot of stuff everywhere on attachment. So you go through and you go, okay, where is my issue? Is my issue an anxious attachment? Do I have am I sort of like a mixed attachment? Do I have abandonment issues? Do I have these things? Again, this is not for judgment. This is also not to feel sorry for yourself. You don't get to go down that rabbit hole of feeling sorry for yourself. You can say, wow, that was a lot. Cool. Let's turn around and start to flip that now. Okay? Because just because somebody doesn't quote unquote choose you doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that they even have to choose you in order to say how much that they care for you. Just because they're not showing you that they care on your terms doesn't mean that they don't care. Right? So what this does is going to let you know it's still an open wound. Okay? So maybe let's kind of come up with a scenario here. Maybe you say, okay, I'm going into let's say friendship, because I think relationship, I promise you, I got a lot of stuff on relationships. I always wait to talk about relationships because relationships with other people are nowhere near as important as the one with yourself. So that's why I focus there, right? Because once that's good, all of the other relationships actually start to fall into play. But let's say you're in a friendship, and in this friendship, you think that you need more of their time, okay? And you're kind of being passive about it, a little manipulative about it, all of those things. You have this expectation in your head, and they're not living up to this expectation that you have. What is that bringing up? Well, I feel like I'm not good enough. Okay, well, that's not the person. That's not the friend. Or the friend is just a symptom, right? Okay, so you would go, okay, well, where did I start to feel that way before? Well, my mom did blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Now we're getting to the deeper root. Because without getting to the deeper root, you're always going to sit there in your insecurities. You're always going to carry the expectations. This is what's going to happen. And then you're going to go, I want to feel better, but then you're not doing the work. And then you're making excuses. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. It's not about how you feel, what you want to do. It's about what you deserve for yourself. It's about what your tomorrow self deserves. And until you're willing to have the uncomfortable conversations with yourself, sit with the uncomfortable feelings and accept radically if needed. Radical acceptance is my jam. And radical acceptance is, it is what it is. It doesn't matter how you want it to be. It's how it is. And if you can't accept that, you got to go to the deeper rooted issue within your ego and your control. What is it that in your brain you think that you can change somebody? Number one, no. Number two, you should never want to do that in the first place. Because if someone changes for you, someone makes these moves for you, it will breed resentment. I have done this long enough in my profession to tell you, I have seen it. At first everybody's like, yeah, oh my God, it's great, till it isn't. You don't alter yourself. If someone isn't really rocking with you, it doesn't align with you, then you distance from it. I don't care that it hurts. Feel the hurt, feel the pain, but go forward and prosper. Because what you don't want to do is get somebody to force them to kind of stay, fit them in this little box because you have attachment issues and abandonment issues, and now they're there and you've kind of you've attempted to make them feel guilty if they leave. Okay, you don't want somebody to be with you like that. I promise you, you do not. I do not care who it is, your mother, your father, your spouse. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And this is imperative for you because what these insecurities, so with this paper and pen, you're going to start writing down what these insecurities are. Is it abandonment? Is it attachment? Is it fear of releasing control? Is it fear of success? Is it fear of happiness? And before you go, why would somebody have a fear of happiness and a fear of success? Because A, they're attaching too much attachment to that, right? So you already know that you have an attachment style issue. If in fact you're saying, if I get this job, I'm going to be so happy. If I get this money, I'm going to be so happy. If I get in this relationship, I'm going to be so happy. You are attaching an idea to something in thinking that that's going to make you whole. That's not going to make you whole. So what you do is, as you're writing down these insecurities, again, and I feel like it definitely warrants repeating, do not judge yourself. I don't care if you have 845 million insecurities. It's going to show you, it's literally putting a spotlight and showing you where you still need to work. All right? Where you still need to work. And you're going to have to pump your brakes. Because when you're struggling with wanting things right now, go, you're going to miss out on so much. And again, you're putting this expectation on it. You know, this is why boundaries for yourself and others are very, very important. You know, very important. It's funny. I've had people say, like, to my friend Deborah said this before, like, wow, must be like, does Lori always like give you advice? She's like, I don't ask her for it. I mean, unless we're talking and she's like, hey, can I ask you something? Sure. But she isn't just going to jump in because we're friends and start asking me a million questions. We value each other's friendship. She isn't going to do that to me. Right? So I'm very, very balanced and organized with it because I know what serves me. And I'm not going to be insecure about it because if somebody else doesn't accept it or doesn't like how it is, that's theirs to process. Okay. And this is important for you, just like it is within yourself. How someone receives your boundaries, how someone receives your growth, how someone starts to receive your secure attachment style, it may not always be great. They may not like it. They may talk very badly about it. And you know what? You're going to have to let that be what it is. That's their journey to walk, not yours. And you're not going to feel guilt by it as you do this more. As you start to heal the areas where you're still seeking the people's, the people, you know, the people's validation of you and making this person happy and that person happy and these people doing these things. When you let that go, you have a whole new superpower, right? Because you have to be extremely clear because what will happen, human trait, is when somebody is insecure, they will spiral a little bit. They'll get a little desperate. They'll start pulling out the big guns. Like they're going to be like, there might be a little bit of manipulation, might be some passive aggressiveness, might be some depressional thing, might be like, well, I might harm myself. And again, you never, and I mean never, ever, ever think it's your responsibility to keep somebody else on this planet. So if somebody starts to do that, now we're going into a whole different degree of manipulation. Okay. So what you do is with that list is you're going to sit there and you're going to go through each one of these and say, what is still open? Now, let's say you're like, okay, abandonment. Like, okay, well, where does that come from? So you always want to go back as far as you can. It might not always be mom and dad. Good chance it's going to be, but it's not always going to be. Might be your first husband, might be your first boyfriend, might be your first girlfriend, might be anything. But you got to go back further because what happens is you're trying to address the symptom now, but the symptom is just a symptom of a deeper root, right? You don't just treat the depression. You treat the deeper root to the depression. You don't just treat the anxiety, you treat the anxiety and you also go to the deeper root of the anxiety. So as with anything else, this is no different. So you look at the insecurity, you focus in on it, you hone in on it and you go, wow, that's kind of helpful, right? Oh, wow, okay. So I see that these are the areas I still need to deal with. And again, you got to check yourself and know that it isn't something that you can control, but it is something that you can repair. Okay? You can't control the past. You can't control why you have the insecurity, but you can, I don't even like to use the word control. You can work on taking back your power and addressing that deeper root. So one of the biggest things that people struggle with, especially if you're my client, you know, you'll come to me and you'll be like, oh my God, I just don't know if I feel like dealing with it. Too bad. We're going to deal with it. We're going to go face first into it. We're going to walk directly through the fire because you've got to address that in order to process it for now, for these relationships that you're in, through the insecurity, through the need of validation of others, through the need of if I get this, I'm happy. You're going to start to distance from things. You're not going to be as attached to them. But that is not going to happen by wishing it away. That is not going to happen with you by saying, well, I just want to be more secure. Great. That's lovely. What are we going to do about it? Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to do the work on your end? Are you going to realize that it is your journey to walk? Because that is going to be the teachable moment that your insecurities are telling you. And I'm telling you, it is a beautiful thing. See, in your mind, you keep trying to outrun stuff. You keep trying to outrun your past, keep trying to outrun your feelings, keep trying to outrun everything in your life because you just want it to go away. That's not going to happen. The gray elephant in the room is still there, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You can put it under every mattress, every floor, and every blinds, everything. Still there. Oh, it's still there. And you may not think it bothers you, but if you look at your life now and you're glommed onto people of friendship or relationship or family, and I mean, you're glommed onto it, that is a teachable moment. That's going, well, I started working on some things. Clearly, I need to go back and work on some more. Where am I resistant in accepting that this is my responsibility? So I better sit and feel it. Don't try to just avoid it. Don't try to go through distractions. You don't do that. Don't tell me you're tired and then scroll socials. I'm too tired to journal and then scroll socials. That's on you, bro. Like, then you don't really love yourself like you want to love yourself. And sometimes you have to act like the person you want to be before you get there. Behavior activation. You're going to have to act like the person you want to be. So if you want to be, like we were talking last week, if you want to be more self-disciplined, then you act like it. There's no magic pill of like, well, how can I be more self-disciplined? You do it. You do it when you don't feel like it. Right? But you got to give yourself the micro goals. Week before that, you got to give yourself the micro goals. But allow yourself to feel and lean into your insecurities. Lean into your weaknesses. They are there to help you. You keep trying to shush it away. You keep trying to run from it. You keep trying to wish it into a different existence. It is not going to ever happen from a wish. It's not going to be fast. It's going to take the rest of your natural born life to maintain it. Even when you get there, you got to maintain it. I do. Everybody does. You have to be committed to yourself. Right? Because a lot of your insecurities, you're putting this responsibility onto other humans. You're saying, I'm insecure. I need you to fill this void. You cannot do that. You are setting yourself up not only for failure, you're setting yourself up to have very, very difficult relationships. Now, what do you do if you're on the other side of that and that person is, let's say, attached to you or that person is there? You're going to have to put some distance there. Okay. I'm not telling you to totally ghost out on them. You need to put distance. Right? You need to make sure, because you have to be careful, because sometimes if people are attached or if they're insecure, if you give them a little bit, they may take that and completely come up with a whole different idea of what they think it should be. And so in order to salvage it, sometimes you're going to have to take a step back, and sometimes you're going to have to just end it completely. Often taking a step back will give you clarity on how you want to set your boundaries and give them the acceptance or resistance in accepting it. And then you get to decide what you want to do without that. With or without that, I should say, with them. So this is why your insecurities are there to help you. So if you're a people pleaser in a fawn response and you can tell somebody's super duper attached to you, you may not say, hey, I'm not in a headspace for this. Yeah, I'll give you a real life example of a boundary. So yesterday, because I'm recording this earlier in the week, yesterday came home day before yesterday. So day before yesterday came home and was like, okay, let me go out to the pool, treat the pool. We were all really done peopling, and everybody in my house, we just scatter and we go to our own rooms and we go to our own places. My son left, went straight down to his house, and my husband's bestie came over. Sometimes he'll get mail here, and I'm out back, and I saw him. He said, oh, do you mind if I get the mail key? Check the mail. Sure. No problem. As no problem. I said, I'm not doing a lot of peopling today. He's like, okay. And he also is a like he could be a professor. Like he's got a PhD in psychology. So, I mean, we're very dangerous together. So in a very annoying way for the people who live in this house. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh my God, I just want some quiet. I haven't even unpacked, which I usually do. I was like, I need a minute. And I could see him coming out, walking over, making a beeline to this next chair beside me. And I just looked at him and said, please do not talk to me today. I do not have the bandwidth for you today. And he goes, oh, okay, no problem. Right? Because he has that emotional maturity to be able to receive that. And even if he didn't, it wouldn't matter to me because I love him and care for him too much to just sacrifice my peace. And then I'm sitting there and I'm annoyed with the conversation. I'm half checked in. I'm half checked out. Then he's asking me a million questions. Then I'm annoyed. Then he's annoyed. There's no need to go through that. So you have to know what your piece is. And when you get to that space of self-love and acceptance, you're not going to have the insecurity on how will they take it. What if they think I'm mean? Listen, sometimes they're gonna. But what is the resistance to it? That's where you got to work. Is your resistance to, I only have one sister? Yeah, you only have one relative who is a sister. Just because people are related to you does not mean A, they get a free pass, and B, that they are family. Just because they're related doesn't make them family. Again, though, this goes into secure attachment. So the attachment you do want is secure attachment. It's going to take you a minute to get there. It's going to take daily practice. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take practicing even when nobody's watching, especially when nobody's watching. Never heal for another human being. Never go to therapy for another human being. You go for yourself, because if you're going to salvage something, it's going to be problematic, and you're going to sit there and then you're going to feel that the therapist is ganging up on you. Then you're going to be upset, or then you're going to go and then something's going to not work and you're going to go, but I went to therapy for you. It is a problem there. If both of you agree, beautiful. If it isn't, then you're going to have to make some decisions. But in the meantime, I want you to go through what those insecurities are. If you have a body insecurity, where's that coming from? Well, just the world. No. Why are you not happy in your own skin? Now, I'm not asking you not to enhance. You want to get Botox? Get Botox. Want to lose weight? Lose weight. That's fine. But you got to be happy and comfortable with the foundational piece of that, which is you. Well, yeah. Well, my ex-husband said I was fat. Oh, okay. So we're still dealing with some trauma that you haven't worked through. Well, I'm through it. No, you're not. You're done with it. You're not through it. So you got to be willing to expose yourself, willing to sit with it, willing to do the work, willing to be consistent. It takes time. Time. But you got to be honest with what it is. And the moment you catch yourself saying, but it's because of my mom, it's because of my ex, that's fine if you're looking for it to be a reason if you don't already know. But if you know where this came from and you keep bringing this up, we're too attached to the person in the situation. Your life in the past is never changing. So you can glorify it. You can make it different. You can want it to be like your best friend. Okay, none of that is going to happen. None of it. But you're here today. And those wounds you can heal because you are enough to be there for you. Your adult children don't have to coddle you. None of those people have to do that. Your past doesn't need to come back and apologize to you. Now, maybe if you apologize to me, I might still have access to me. Fine. But don't sit there and think that you need that apology in order to heal. You absolutely do not. You can give yourself what you need now that you didn't have then, because this is the only time you got. But you might not even realize what you're dealing with. You might be mad someone didn't call you, but it really has nothing to do with calling you. It could be something that you feel like since you were the middle child, no one listened to you. So it really has nothing to do with calling. It has to do with the fact that you're still dealing with some middle child stuff. Well, we're not going to blame your sisters and brothers. We're not going to blame your parents. We're going to say, okay, what do you need now? What did you need then that somebody else couldn't provide you? That's where you step in. That is shadow work. Okay. But you got to stop with going, it's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of this. It's because of that. We understand the why. And if you don't, we'll just keep digging down deep to it till you find it. But what are you going to do with the information now? What is it that you keep avoiding when it comes to your, like giving yourself the showing up for yourself. Like, what is it that you keep resisting on putting yourself as a priority for yourself? Not everybody else. No. Priority for you. Why are you so worried about everybody else? People pleasing? Oh, you don't want them to be mad at you? Cool. Why? What is that bringing up for you? Well, God, every time my dad was mad, like he would throw something at me. Oh, okay. So we're still dealing with childhood stuff. Because what you will eventually get to, I promise you, but it will take time. You can book a session with me. You can book 80,000 sessions with me or anybody else. But the reality is you're not going to do it by yourself. You can have all the tools in the world and from the creator himself. And if you're not using them, it's all irrelevant. So you have to be in that space. Okay. You have to be in the space of acceptance of where you are and acceptance that it is solely your responsibility to fill what that void is. We cannot, under any circumstances, go back. Stay off of social media. If it is problematic, get off of it. If you're comparing yourself and you're too worried about what this person's doing and that person's doing, stay off of it. If it is not helping you, do not sit there and then get upset with yourself. Oh my God, I'm lonely. Well, you think all you did was watch rom-coms all day long on TLC or Hallmark Channel. And all you do is you keep looking at, oh my God, look at this wedding board on Pinterest. Okay, you're not even dating. I know I'm never going to get there. Why would you do that to yourself? You are doing that to yourself. No one is doing it for you. That is self-sabotage. Go back and listen to the podcast on self-sabotage. It's imperative that you lean into what your shortcomings are. You lean into your insecurities. They are there and they are beautiful and they are trying to scream for help for you and go, hey, babe, hey, we're still here. We're still here. Can you give us a little attention? It is you crying for you, not you crying for everybody else to show up for you, you crying for you. And so this is why, if you can take and be honest, that's the other key. Be honest about what you're struggling with. Be honest about what you're dealing with. Be honest about where your insecurities are without blame, and start working on there. That's how you start. That is starting point for self-love. That is starting point for healing. That is starting point for getting rid of your guilt and shame. That's a starting point for everything. But you got to be willing to lean into it. Because I promise you deserve it. I promise you that you're worth it. And I promise you that little voice of insecurity that's screaming and screaming and screaming for your help is not going to go away by wishing it away, by expecting somebody else to take care of it. It is your job to show up for you. And it is your job to listen to that little voice who keeps saying, everybody else has left me. Please don't leave me too.
Check it out.